welcome to On the Air presented by AIRWAAV. I'm your host, Sydney Smith, and I'm here with Thomas Evans, who is a professional strongman athlete. He won the Arnold Amateur Strongman in 2022 and placed 5th in the Arnold Strongman Classic. He is also a strength and conditioning coach, so I think he has a lot of valuable information to share with us today. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule, especially with this close to World Strongest Man, to talk with me a little bit. Today, I kind of just want to start out by starting at the beginning of your career, and I know beforehand you had aspirations to be in the NFL, and you barely didn't make the cut for the Green Bay Packers. So walk me through what that experience was like and where your mindset was at and how that really played into role into starting and now succeeding into the sport of strongman.
So in 2017, I was like an NFL hopeful. Had a where I was signed after the draft in 2017 to the Green Bay Packers, and I played with them, throughout the summer. Made it to the last round of cuts when things unfortunately didn't work out for me, and I still pursued the NFL until about April 2018. But I really started. Oh, actually, right when I was cut was the same time the movie Born Strong came out. So that movie came out on Netflix. Follows along Brian Shaw, Big Z, Hathor, and Eddie Hall as they're preparing for the Arnold Strongman Classic. And I kind of I knew of the sport, but it was still new to me at this time. I had watched the movie, and I was like, hey, I think this is something I can do. I kind of want to give it a shot. And once NFL dreams were kind of officially over after April 2018, I went in the strongman the next week. Didn't even take a week off, kind of went straight to it. Then I rolled through and then had my first competition in April 2019. So I trained for about a year in the Delaware Strong Race, where I finished third out of 5. Realizing later that was actually a pretty big regional competition. And then after that, just kind of progressed with the ranks. Came in 5th place in my first pro competition where I was an amateur in America's Strongest in 2019. No, I'm sorry, that's not correct. That would have been 2021. I get my years mixed up. 2021, where I finished 5th place. And then after that, a couple weeks later, finished 2nd in Strongman Corp Nationals. So I secured me a spot to go to the Arnold Amateur, where I won that in 2022. A couple months later, won the Shaw Classic up in 2022. And then my next didn't do as good in OSG that year. So missed the automatic qualifier for Worlds in 2023, but received a reserve spot and ended up being able to compete that year. And and then my first pro competition first major pro competition was the Arnold Strongman Classic 2023. Then luckily did well enough at that. Got to go to Worlds 2023. Then the Strongest Man on Earth in 2023, and then the Rogue Invitational in 2023. So that was definitely a dream year one, that's for sure. Getting to do all 4 of the major comps.
Yeah, you definitely had a very strong start to a major competition and did very well then. In 2018, in April you said, whenever you were done with football, was there any part of you that was thinking about continuing with football at all, or were you just immediately done and already thinking about the next thing?
So I didn't really leave on good terms mentally. I was pretty distraught, pretty fed up, and so I went to Washington for mini camp invite in April or May 2018. And once that didn't work out, I was over it. I was extremely frustrated. I definitely thought I had some things that would have led to a practice squad or some kind of lower end of the depth chart. I knew I was going to throw right away, but after that point, I was pretty much over it, and kind of my kind of the strongman didn't look back. This was before they really had well developed, like the spring league wasn't a thing, XFL wasn't a thing, so it was kind of NFL or CFL, and that was really it.
Did you have, towards the end, did you have a different sport in mind or a different path that you thought might be interesting to take?
Instead of strongman?
Um, at the end of your football career?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't follow the question. So, like a different sport rather than strongman?
Yes, or if you were just going to be done with sports at all in general, I guess.
No. Sorry. For me, as you can see I was confused by that question. I've always been super, super competitive and always wanted to train, always work towards something. So, like, for me, being done competing physically was not really an option for me at that time. So, kind of glad that way. This, I always got to train for something, and I'm sure after showing I will find something else to keep me entertained.
Yeah. So you definitely have that competitive nature. So coming from football, in what ways did playing football transfer over to strongman besides the competitive aspect of it?
For to be a good football player, I think you really got to know how to handle all the intangibles on the field. Like you have to know how to work hard. You have to put all the time in. Where football and strongman are closely related, I think, in opposed to other sports, is there's so much preparation time for. Like in college, right? You work all year round to play 11 games, hopefully more. In strongman, you put all this time in to do, one, two, four competitions a year. Where in like other sports where they play like, 50 games a year or what have you, there's as much game time as there is like behind the scenes training. So always being able to work with that end goal in mind, even when you're maybe 9 or 10 months out from a competition, as well as like prioritizing everything to do outside of actually in training, your nutrition, your sleep, hydration, all that stuff. Um, Helped me become a decent football player. So something that kind of easily translated over to the next thing.
Whenever you started strongman, when was the moment that you decided that you wanted to really pursue the sport of strongman wholeheartedly?
Kind of went into it all the way right away. I mean, I never thought I'd get to this level. When I finished third in my first competition, where it was only what I thought were the only people in Delaware, which wasn't quite true, but um, I was like, okay, like it was like the next step. But then I learned that like North American nationals were a thing. So okay, how do I get to that? Then after a couple of years, I did three nationals, and on my third one, I placed podium, and I'm like, okay, what's the next step? Um, like going into the Arnold Amateur in 2022, I didn't think I'd win. I didn't like, all right, I'm going to win this year. And then the Arnold next year, it just kind of fell in and kind of happened together. So the moment where I quote unquote got serious, I guess, would be after I won the amateur, and I was like, okay, we're in this for real now. Um, so we better get serious. Spend more time in training. Spend more time talking with other experts, other competitors, trying to learn these techniques really well and get my hands on implements that I maybe haven't used before.
Whenever you won the Arnold Amateur in 2022, that's whenever you were thinking, okay, maybe this could be something serious. Is that the first time that you realized maybe you have some talent and potential in the sport?
Yeah, I would say so. For me to convince myself, I think other people may have suggested, like you're climbing the ranks quickly. You're already in. Like I went to nationals my first year competing, and but for me, it was like, all right, when I won the amateur, I was like, okay, I gotta like I do belong in this sport, and have a chance to be one of the best guys in it. So, and then I just had to
Yeah.
continuously prove that to myself.
So you obviously have a lot of talent. You love to work hard. You're very competitive. You really like the work aspect of strongman. What would you say overall keeps you in the sport and really draws you in to go at it at such a competitive level?
That's a great question. I don't know if I know the answer. I just kind of, for me, it's always looking at the next goal. It's what, like last year was do well enough to get invited back to shows. And I'm like, okay, year two at the top level, what's the goal this year? And to me, it's to prove or to get a podium spot or start getting really, really close to those podium spots. Um, and just kind of keep getting invited back. And then when I think I'm in a position to maybe start winning one of these major shows, which I think, depending on the events, we're getting pretty close to some of those, and just kind of keep progressing. And it's just it's the motivation versus drive debate, where I don't feel like I always need a lot of external motivation. It's just I'm driven to do the best I possibly can pretty much every day, especially with
Yeah.
training. And if I have a bad training day, I don't like it, especially if it's something that I can control versus just like, all right, it's a bad training day because I'm sick versus, all right, it's a bad training day because I didn't get my sleep taken care of the day before and perform like I wanted to the day. It drives me nuts. So, um, for better or for worse, it just kind of keeps going and don't really take much of a break.
Yeah, I think that drive that's instilled in you is absolutely necessary to be one of the top, no matter what it is that you're trying to go after. Some people don't always have that, and I think that's like one of the most important things, besides like the talent and all the other little things that add up. But that little thing in having a mindset like that will definitely take you to the top for sure.
Appreciate it.
So, with that, with all the accomplishments of wanting to be doing the best that you can, and obviously there's short-term goals of with each competition, but what is it that you hope to accomplish overall within your career as a strongman?
I look to be, I want to be one of the names of the guys you think of when you think of this era. Um, I know there's a lot of guys that are sometimes can be like a flash in the pan guy. I'm looking to try to build a name for myself over a course of period of time. I don't necessarily want to put that on number of wins in this competition or number of podiums. It's to be one of the guys you see competing at a very high level, at a consistent level over a course of competition. Is not one flash in the pan comp here and then not performing as well in the next one, and we kind of falls out in a year or two. Um, so I'd like to think I can do this at a high level for a couple of years to come.
A long-lasting household name, then.
Yes, that's the goal.
Well, that'd be very cool to see. So I'll definitely be on the lookout throughout your career, seeing if and when that happens. So another aspect of being a strongman there, especially at a high level, you still have your life outside of the gym. And oftentimes it's hard to balance having both those. So how has strongman impacted your life outside the gym? And how are you able to find a balance between training and your other responsibilities?
Well, for me, it's time management. I make sure my work works in such a way where it's like a lot of stuff in the morning, then a long gap and stuff in the evening. So I find time to get the training done I need throughout the day. And then on my off days, I'm taking care of pretty much everything that I wouldn't do in a training day, extra any desk work that I can get ahead of. Anything that needs to be done around the house is done on the weekends when I'm not working on the weekends. And, it takes pretty much, and that's kind of it. There's not really any time left between work and strongman. Um, I haven't been able to have much of a social life for better for worse. It's a total family sacrifice. My wife spends a considerable amount of time and money and effort going and doing my competitions with me, and just we skip out on a lot of things that I'm sure that both of us would like to do. Um, but it's the sacrifices we make. Same thing with my family. There's times where I probably could go back and visit now, visit my mom and my grandmother, my brother and sister. But it's just with between work account because when work comes down, then it's always close to competition. So it kind of lines up to where it's always pretty busy. But it's kind of the nature of the beast, and I know that we'll have time for stuff like that, and hopefully later down the road.
I'm glad you have a strong
Yeah.
support system, because it definitely takes an army to help get you where you need to be, just because it is so much on you and just those around you. We had talked some about your drive and ambition overall, and besides the aspect of not having much time or much free time to do like other things outside of the sport and work, with the mindset, with being so ambitious, how or are you able to relax at all or separate yourself outside of the gym to not constantly be thinking about what you need to be doing to get to the top?
Well, I probably don't do a good job with that. Um,
It's hard.
yeah, it really is. I mean, like, I know when we're trying to set up this meeting, it was difficult to find even a weekend that worked. Um,
Yeah.
but it's just trying to take advantage of the time when you have it. Um, Funny, like on like a Sunday where I don't have to go to work or I don't have to train. Um, still get up pretty early. We'll knock out all the chores we got to do, and me and my wife joke we try to get everything done by noon, so we can do whatever we want until we have to go to bed for the rest of the day. So today we've just been spending time with the dogs and taking them on walks, probably cook some dinner here in a little bit. Outside it's pretty nice. So um, yeah, that's kind of, and then we get everything set for the week, and then the routine starts like pretty
Yeah.
monotonous.
It's definitely hard. It's definitely hard to have that balance, but getting a routine and schedule makes it a little bit easier to help balance it out a little bit.
For sure. Everything's very routine for us. And I know it's everybody kind of sees the exciting competitions and like what that kind of brings to life and all that. And it's like, well, it's pretty monotonous and routine getting up to that. At least for me, it's follow the same routine weekly and for months, and then just kind of like comes to this exciting moment of the competition, and then it's back into the routine as quick as we can get into
Yeah.
it.
People definitely don't see all the behind the scenes of really all your sacrificing and just how much dedication it requires to get there. And then you have your like glory moment or whatever just for a day or 2 days, whatever, however long the competition is. And then after that, it's like back to the routine over and over again until the next thing.
Yep. That's it. That's it in a nutshell.
Okay, so now I want to dive into AIRWAAV, because as an AIRWAAV athlete, you are a strong believer and user of it. And you also have a lot of knowledge outside of being an athlete. You are also a strength and conditioning coach. So, why would using a mouthpiece at all be beneficial for athletes?
I started using AirWave actually World Strongman last year, and immediately after I was like, I gotta connect with this company and become one of their athletes, and luckily that worked out for me. It's from the strongman side. I've always had a hard time breathing. Like I was not like you hear me on the football field, I'm sound like I'm dying. It's not a breathing. Um, but once I was introduced to Airwave and the ability to, because a lot of things are strongman brace, run somewhere, brace, run somewhere, brace, and the ability to recover in those quick bouts of action um, is extremely important. And just like the game of football, where it's, you know, really explosive for maybe 7 seconds at most, recover, explode, recover, explode, recover. Um, and then the training should replicate that. So when we're doing stuff in the weight room, right, just like you would use a weightlifting belt, you want to make sure that nothing is compromised, right? You're taking care of one, not just taking care of your teeth, but allowing to be able to brace and get tight and contract your body underneath that pressure, regardless of whatever that external pressure is. And but also be able to intake oxygen while doing it, so you can actively recover while you're doing these movements. So definitely something I wish I would have used while training at, because I was, to me, a good football player is has to be a decent weightlifter. You got to be able to train at the high level so you can prepare your body for the physical demands. Because obviously we can't go out and push each other around for the entire year, but we got to get strong under load. And any tool that can help us get strong under load should inevitably help us out on the field.
So, with that, it seems that AIRWAAV would have been helpful when playing football. So, where would you have used AIRWAAV in your career as a football player if you would have had it then?
Look at 100% used it within my weightlifting training. And really, was any kind of off-season training that wasn't out on the field, whether we're pushing sleds or um, lifting weights, repeat squats, cleans, even accessory work in a weight room, or any style of circuit training, just to aid in the ability to brace and get tight and train the proper muscles, as well as be able to recover and not have to worry about spinning your mouthpiece out. Because what you see a lot of times on the field is people just, they'll spit their mouthpiece out as fast as they can so they can breathe, and that's just not an issue you run into with AIRWAAV while you're training, which is something I really would have kind of wish I had back when I was doing the higher conditioning workouts than I am now, but definitely would have found helpful.
As a strongman athlete, mouthpieces are not new to the sport. So, what sets AIRWAAV mouthpieces apart from any other thing on the market, and how has that technology improved your experience as an athlete?
Well, I keep alluding to it, but it's just the ability to take in, be able to breathe while um, performing the movement. So I think the first movement that I used an AIRWAAV for was the sandbag race, where it's pick up the sandbag, brace, be able to run, but need to be able to take in oxygen and not have this big bulky mouthpiece that doesn't allow you to breathe, and then sprint back while you're trying to take in more oxygen to be able to recover between those intermediate bouts. Whereas other mouthpieces on the market are, really designed for like maybe just heavy deadlifts, where it's one bout of energy, one max, and then mouthpiece is out, and then you recover. But that doesn't work for most of the events. Where AIRWAAV works for both. It works for the maximum repetitions as well as the intermediate bouts, more conditioning style of exercises.
Now, did you use a mouthpiece at all before you tried AIRWAAV?
Yes, I did.
Was
And then,
that in football or
yes,
starting in football? And then,
football. And then I did wear one in Strongman prior to using AIRWAAV, where I would run into that problem where I would actually probably only wear the mouthpiece for um, max effort events and not for conditioning style events where strongman, you have to be able to brace even under the conditioning style events. So I was only getting the supposed benefits from max style events.
how long do you think, if any time at all, did it take for you to get used to using the AIRWAAV?
Well, I boiled the mouthpiece or not boiled, I fitted the mouthpiece in my hotel room at Worlds, and then I wore it for warm ups, and I wore it for the first event last year. So no time at all. Um, I'm
Yeah,
like,
no time at all with
yeah,
that.
yeah. I literally, honestly, I wore it for the warm ups and then ran into the event. Um, so
Wow.
you can start using it right away.
Okay. Also, with a strength and conditioning background, how important is it to you to use a product that has peer-reviewed published research?
Incredibly important. There's a lot of things you'll see out on. Um, you'll see information can be just kind of tossed around anywhere. Where especially in the fitness industry, that's not legitimate at all. In regards to nutrition, training apparatuses, I mean, you name it. So a lot of our time we're looking at in the professional setting is to make sure we're looking at research and implications that have been actually studied, you know, just like anything else. And that's kind of the difference between, professional research and just lackadaisical research, if you will.
We have many years of peer review research behind our product, and there are still many strength athletes and just athletes in general who aren't wearing a mouthpiece. But if we completely take AIRWAAV out of the conversation, in general, why should strength athletes wear a mouthpiece at all?
It's going to benefit you just like any other piece of equipment would. That's why there's a lot of rules around wearing like 3 elbow sleeves for a pressing event, what have you. So, like, where if I get a little bit tighter elbow sleeve on, all right, that's gonna help me press maybe another 5 pounds, which at the end of the day can win or lose your competition. So, if you are putting everything into moving the most weight, being beneficial in your movements, then why not add another piece of equipment that's only going to help you?
The last thing I want to ask about your experience with AIRWAAV in general is just what type of lifts, or is there anything in particular that you prefer to use AIRWAAV on, or do you use it across the board?
I use it across the board for all my routine. Um, Anything from warm ups to dynamic movements to conditioning events to um, max deadlift events. Now it's like it doesn't matter. Using it right across the board.
Can you possibly give an instance on any of your lifts of how you can tell a difference by putting the AIRWAAV in?
Um, to me, the biggest one is the repeat bouts. It's um, like just the other day we were training frame into yoke and then moving a heavy frame for about 20 meters and then running back. Um, at a lot of times where the strongman equipment is, meant to brace and protect you. Um, but while you're running back, you need to be able to recover. Um, so it was a heavy frame, and I was able to run back into the yoke. Actually, kind of tripped and fell over, but we kind of rolled back up into it. I was able to catch my breath while we're moving and not wasting any time on the clock to get to the heavy yoke to finish the run. So, um, and the fact that I was actually able to yell something out while I was rolling around, back up into a somewhat athletic roll into getting back up on my feet. Um, this kind of says it all. If I was, had a big chunky mouthpiece, wouldn't have been able to breathe and recover as efficiently to get set back up for that yoke and to finish running the fastest time possible.
I'm glad AIRWAAV has been very beneficial to you and you're enjoying it and you are a part of our team, because I enjoy seeing what you're doing and especially with the events coming up. So the very last thing I want to talk about with our time today is obviously the World's Strongest Man is coming up very quickly and some of the qualifying events were recently released. So what were your initial thoughts on those?
I'm really excited. There's some events I actually have some more experience on.
Mhm.
For example, the car walk and the prelims. This will be my second time in the car walk, where normally I'm pretty good at yoke. The first time I did car walk, I wasn't able to do as well as I liked. So I know how that piece of equipment's going to feel a little bit better now. Um, know what I messed up the first time, can go in and make those corrections. The lever stone carry, I've not done a stone carry a stone carry with rings before, so I feel a little bit better about that. I've done Viking press, where this time last year I was looking at a lot of events I hadn't done before, or haven't touched anything similar to the equipment. So now this year, there's not many events where I haven't done something incredibly similar, if not the same thing.
So overall, you don't really have that many hesitations really about any of the events?
No, no. I'm looking
Well,
forward to it.
good. Hopefully you can have a lot of confidence this year, especially with some more experience under your belt, and you can do well in the best of your abilities.
100%. That's the goal.
Well, that's really all I have for us today. I really appreciate you hopping on and talking with me some, and good luck at World's Strongest Man.
Thanks, Sydney. Thanks for the AIRWAAV team. Appreciate you guys and super happy to be part of
Of
it.
course. Of course. See you later. Thank you.
See ya. Thanks.
Well, that's all for today's episode of On the Air. Thank you all for listening, and thank you, Thomas, for joining me. Be sure to stay tuned for our next episode, and don't forget to purchase your own AIRWAAV mouthpiece if you want to break your best and unlock your full athletic potential. If you made it this far, be sure to use code OTA15 for 15% off your next purchase. Drop any questions that you have about AIRWAAV in the comments below, and see you next time.